Emotional triggers, what are they and how can you overcome them? Hey, before we dive into today's podcast, I just wanted to send you a gentle reminder that this is your last and final call to fill out the Mastery Coaching Program application. If you haven't already, head on over to momisincontrol.com and do so now. On June 2nd, we will be switching over to the waitlist and we will let you know when we open again soon. Also, if you are sitting on the fence and you're not too sure if Mastery is for you, I'm hosting this Thursday a live information session over on Facebook. So you can go to momisincontrol.com/FB for my Facebook fan page, and you'll check out the information for the event over there. During the information session, I'm going to be talking about the core challenges that modern women are facing while raising their family, why I think it's essential that we really look at ourselves first in parenting, even if our children are struggling, and how to overcome fear and self-doubt when you're ready for change and transformation. So you have two options right now. Either head on over to momisincontrol.com and fill out the application if you've been sitting on the fence, or go check out my Facebook fan page. It's Heather Chauvin, and there is an event on that page on this Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be hosting a live information session over on that page. So if you can't join live, no big deal. You can definitely head on over there after and watch the replay. The applications will be closing this Sunday, June 2nd. We're already into June. Where has time gone? So head on over to momisincontrol.com and fill yours out today. Hey ladies, I'm so excited to share today's episode with you. I think it's so important. And if there's anything I want you to remember me by, it is helping you master your emotional triggers. Too often, I see women like their lives living by default because they don't know how to feel in control of their emotional triggers. Some people call this emotional intelligence. It's, understanding your big emotions, but at the core of it is understanding where you are finding yourself triggered and learning, why does that trigger me? How come one person can say the same thing to everybody else in a room and you can take it a different way, or you can take it one way and the person next to you takes it a different way? So I think this is just a really important, awesome conversation to have. So first off, an emotional trigger, the form of it is not fully understood, but it's thought that the senses play a huge role. Smells, sights, sounds, and tastes are powerful elements when it comes to forming memories, particularly associated with negative ones. So think about this. You have a traumatic experience, and it doesn't have to be like a big traumatic experience, but let's just say when you were little and I don't know, someone said something to you in the playground and it made you feel small. All of a sudden, every time you have that experience again and again growing up, you're going to feel small. So someone might think you're stupid, right? You might grow up with a learning disability, or you found something really difficult, and therefore you always hated school and you felt academics were really difficult for you. So you had this belief that you were stupid, and that story carried with you. And then someone might say something to you and it makes you feel really small and silly. That is an emotional trigger. And you'll carry it from one relationship to the other. So I often see people doing this in their parenting, where it was something that happened with their mother or their father, and then they're projecting this onto their children, but their children are here to help you heal. And what I mean by that is they're here to help you heal. They're here to show you your triggers. I also see a lot of people getting triggered by money when it comes to investing in yourself, because not that this is a new thing, but when you're trying to break generational patterns, you're often stepping outside of what other people used to do, what other people around you used to do. So it's really uncomfortable for you. So you're going to be triggered. You're going to be like, that's too much money. I can't do that. Oh no, I could never spend that on myself. So how we are chronically emotionally triggered is how we show up in our lives. And then it just manifests into our relationships, into our health, into our bank accounts, our time, our energy, everything. So some examples of emotional triggers are: you feel anxious when someone leaves you. You think that a person is not listening to you. You feel helpless over situations when you have no control. You do not feel valued or appreciated. You feel that you are not good enough. You think that you are being judged all the time. You feel belittled and worthless. You feel controlled by someone else. Someone is making you feel guilty about leaving them, aka maybe your child. Someone is never happy to see you. Someone is harassing you sexually. Someone is being too needy and wants to cling to you. So these are all emotional triggers, but here's the beauty of it. So I could probably tell you 1,000,001 stories in my own personal life. I want to give you permission right now to know that emotional triggers are part of the human experience. So you will always be triggered. We all have wounds to heal, and sometimes you think you've dealt with a problem and it will come back. So this is the beauty of it. This is the chronic check-in with yourself. So whether you're working on personal goals or whether you're working on professional goals, every time you are emotionally triggered by another human being, that is an opportunity for you to grow. So this happens to me. Sorry for clearing my throat. This happens to me every single day. Every single day I'm triggered. And a judgment, you passing judgment onto someone else, that is also an emotional trigger. So those people are showing you something about yourself. And if somebody's triggering something in you because of something they've said to you, they're triggering something within you and mirroring it to you that you can grow as well. So it might be your children saying, I don't want to do that, or they're not, jumping on your dime, or it might be your partner and you guys are arguing about something. It might be that you actually didn't even have a conversation with someone. They just said something to you like, oh, you look tired, or, oh, you look good, or, oh, I noticed this about you, or, oh, this happened. Maybe they're not even saying it to you. Maybe they're having a conversation about their day or their life, and they're sharing something about themselves, and you get triggered. So the opportunity here is these are clues where you can heal. So I always tell my clients, like, what are you triggered by? Because that's an opportunity for growth. So you can identify triggers, you can try it out, work out where the negative feelings come from. You can look back on your childhood and see whether there's some feelings that you're experiencing now can be related back to events when you were younger. So remember, our parents do not cause all of our emotional trauma. So I know as women, we're really, really hard on ourselves, and we want to say like, oh my gosh, I'm screwing up my kids. Guess what? We're all screwing up our children. Everybody is screwing up their children. So here's the thing. You have opportunity for growth when you are triggered emotionally. And there's a disconnect between now, your emotional trigger, and where you want to be. So where you want to be is the goal, right? And so you're triggered. But what you typically do when you're triggered is you have this emotional response built in. So sometimes people use food for comfort. Sometimes people will shrink and use sleep. That was my drug of choice. Sometimes people will lash out and use gossip. So in order to change and become, a different person and who you want to become, like that bigger version of you, the best self, the higher version, you have to look at your emotional triggers. So for the sake of today, I wanted to just introduce the topic of emotional triggers and ask you, like, how do you cope when you are triggered? Do you typically project and react and blame other people for your own wound, do you do that? Like, how dare you make me feel this way? Because that person, maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't intentional. They can't make you feel any way. Like if I was angry at somebody, they triggered something in me and I was angry and so I was yelling and screaming at them, that person didn't make me angry. What that person did was poke one of my wounds that needed to be healed. You understand what I'm saying? So they're like, there's her wound. I'm going to poke on it. But they didn't make me angry. I was already angry. What they did is they poked on my wound that needed to heal. So this is why I say personal development is so essential in life, in success, in any area of your life, in parenting, because your children are going to focus on your wounds. That is just the nature of the game. Let's just be honest. Your children, for some reason, are designed miraculously to fit like perfectly and have like all these fingers to just poke on this wound, poke on that wound, poke on this wound, poke on that wound. So every time you're triggered by your children or an intimate partner, because I find the closer people are to you emotionally, the more wounds that they can trigger. It's really, really important that you take ownership of your triggers and really sit with that and go, what is this? Why am I so triggered by this person? Another thing, so there's, excuse me, it's one thing to look at your triggers. It's another thing to realize that other people's triggers are like have nothing to do with us. So this is where oftentimes I see people manipulate themselves to meet other people's needs. Excuse me, my freaking throat. Where they are trying to change who they are to avoid the other person's trigger. So think about this. Sometimes I'll hear people say this about their parents, like, oh, I couldn't say this in front of my mom, so I would just tiptoe around everything. And then you find yourself growing up to be a people pleaser because you're tiptoeing around everything. Well, okay, that's how, sometimes we become people pleasers, and then you're manipulating who you are for everybody else because you don't like triggering other people because you're like, I don't like to be uncomfortable. But here's the thing. You won't be able to live an authentic life if you're not self-expressed. So I'm just being me. I'm going about my day, doing what I want to do, achieving the goals that I want to achieve. I know that I'm triggering people all the time just by being me. Could you imagine going through your whole entire life trying not to trigger other people? Like that would be impossible. You would have to, you would have to like be in bed all day, but even then you would be triggering people because you wouldn't be enough for people. You wouldn't be doing enough. So this is the emotional liberation. This is the emotional freedom. When you work through your triggers and you develop this mindset and belief that their shit is not a reflection of me. I can be me over here, and if I am too much for somebody else, guess what? They don't need to interact with me. And if I'm not enough for someone else, guess what? They don't need to interact with me. So this is where, that self-esteem, that confidence comes from when you're doing the inner work and you begin to realize that as humans, we're all triggered. But my triggers are my responsibility. My triggers are mine to keep. And the connection that I crave, the love that I crave, the the fulfillment that I crave, that is my responsibility to find, not for anybody else to give to me. So I know today was a little long, well, not really long, but more of like a rant on triggers. And I want to know, did you discover anything else about yourself today? Did you go, interesting. I didn't know that about myself and my triggers. Your triggers are yours. We're going to trigger other people by being ourselves. And more often than not, realize that it's a privilege to trigger other people. You are showing them and leading them back to themselves.
I left the corporate world while I was with Heather, and I started a marketing consulting business, and I actually just started a coaching business helping out parents who are stuck and don't know who they are anymore, and helping them discover who they are. Before I met Heather, I was struggling with my parenting, and I really thought it was just my parenting that was the problem, but it was in all aspects of life, from parenting to career to relationships to home and even money. And when I found Heather, her podcast, it just hit home. Like, there was a few podcast episodes that just triggered me to go ahead and apply. And slowly things started to unravel and just grow, and I started seeing a little bit of light here and a little bit of light there, and everything just started to blossom and become lighter, and I found the old cat again. Yeah, so the transformation is crazy, and I could talk about it for probably hours, but the biggest thing is, like, during the course and working with her, the magic that happened was I stopped yelling at my kids. I started taking care of myself. I started valuing the relationships that I had with my husband, my coworkers, and friends more. I started seeing the positive in life instead of always looking at the glass half full. And post all this work, she just put the little bug in me that said, hey, Kat, you can actually share this, and you have a story, and you have the ability to lead. And I'm just having a fun time sharing all the learnings, and I just feel like everyone in the world needs to hear what Heather's been saying in their own way. And so to allow other grads and other people who worked with her to share the message is key. Heather, I love you. You changed my life.